My name is Shipra Kayan. I run the design team. I lead the design team here that builds product features that support meetings and workshops on Miro. And today I'm really excited to be here to get to talk to some of the forward-leaning thinkers in the workshops and meeting space and to share our awesome guests with you guys. Without further ado, let me introduce Jurgen and then hand it over to him. So, as a serial founder, successful entrepreneur, author, and speaker, Jurgen is pioneering management to help creative organizations survive and thrive in the 21st century. He offers concrete gains, tools, and practices so you can introduce better management with fewer managers. Who doesn't want that? He also offers a platform for you to share your practices and stories with the rest of the world. I can't wait to hear what Jurgen has learned from leading over 200 meetups. Over to you, Jurgen.
All right. Thank you so much, Shipra. Nice welcome. It's so cool to be here as part of a webinar with Miro because I've been using it extensively for the last half year or more, almost a year by now, actually. Indeed, for those who don't know me, I'm an author of a couple of books on management, leadership, startups. That means I also speak usually at events around the world, and I normally do workshops. Well, the last traditional workshop that I did was in Melbourne, Australia. I remember it well. That was February 2020. When I traveled there on the way, I had a stopover in Hong Kong, and there were people wearing masks, face masks. And I thought, what's a weird thing? I've never seen that before. And then I traveled to Melbourne. And then on the second day of my workshop, I had people coming to me and said, we just heard that we are not supposed to come back to our office for the next 2 weeks. We need to be in quarantine because they had met me. I was suddenly a suspicious person as the workshop trainer. And I was like, what, really? But that was for me the starting point of a complete change of my life, because as soon as I got back to Europe, to the Netherlands, where I'm from, all the other events in my calendar started being canceled one after the other. It was like a domino effect. They were all tumbling over, basically. And my entire calendar was wiped clean. Well, never waste a good crisis, as they said. I had to reinvent myself and come up with something new. And what I figured out was you cannot just do the same thing offline and then just do that online. It doesn't work. Like, people don't do 2-day workshops on Zoom. That's horrible. You need to have a different approach. So I thought, let's just experiment and do the opposite, go the other extreme, and cut my workshops up in many small chunks of not more than 1 hour. So basically what I did was I had my standard 2-day classes and I cut them up in 1 hour segments. I scheduled them throughout my calendar in a rolling wave planning. Basically, every meetup was repeated again and again. And I call that self-paced workshops. So whenever someone missed the Tuesday afternoon session of a topic, no worries, they could sign up again the next time I did the same topic, which would be a Thursday night or a Friday morning. So that gave people a lot of flexibility. And that's what I've been doing for the last, well, almost a year, basically. And that means I did 200 or more meetups. And I have a little bit of experience by now running these meetups with exercises and discussions as a facilitator. So let me share my screen and guide you through some of the tips that I have. I suppose share my screen is one of those phrases that has become part of my standard vocabulary. Like the other one, you're muted, is another one that we use frequently when we are on Zoom working with Miro. There's actually a funny example, an anecdote that I'd like to share with you first before I get started with my 16 tips. I was part of a Zoom meeting 2 weeks ago with about 100 executives and board members in the Netherlands. Those were, well, I suppose important people, and they discussed the topic of the lack of knowledge among executives and board members about digitization, digital technologies, etc. A good topic. at least good thing that they were aware that there was not enough knowledge. The interesting thing was that at some point, one of those 100 participants started taking a phone call and his microphone was on. So for the next 5 minutes, all the other participants were participants in the phone call, the private phone call that this person was having about the birthday and his guest for the night, etc. And it was so embarrassing and hilarious at the same time because the irony could not have been bigger. The problem wasn't even so much that this person's microphone was on, but the facilitator didn't know how to mute him. Well, that's rule number one. I would say for facilitator, know your tool. You should know how to mute someone who's taking a phone call. But for the next 5 minutes, we were all enjoying someone's personal phone call. And the facilitator trying to say, could you mute yourself, please? Could you mute yourself, please? Well, that didn't work. Anyways, I thought it was embarrassing and funny at the same time. The irony was amazing. I would love to share with you the things that I learned. This is one of them about hosting meetups, discussions, and exercises with the people that are part of my workshops. So let's go. Number one, the first of 16 tips: send reminders before meetups. I have noticed far too often to my liking that people say, I never got your message when messages are automatically generated from Zoom or whatever tool you use for your meetups. Um, Plenty of them apparently end up in spam folders, and then it's such a pity when they miss the meetup, or they reach out to me sometimes on Slack or other platforms. Hey, what is the link? I can't find it. And I was like, but you should have received a message from Zoom, but apparently they didn't get it, or it was in their spam folder. So since then, I make sure that everyone gets the message at least from two directions, not only from Zoom automatically, but also from my mailbox or some other platform, so that uh, the chance of all of that disappearing in the spam folder is much smaller. Then the second tip, use a checklist for every meetup. Even after 200 meetups, I still forget the basics every now and then. So I'll show you some of the simple things that I have on my checklist. It's of course preparing the Miro board and pulling up my green screen and turning on stereo lights, but also turning off all notifications because it's super annoying that Slack sends all these clicks messages, signals during a webinar, or my phone starts ringing, or sometimes I had more than once that my Google Home started answering messages, and started answering questions without me wanting that in the middle of a discussion. Something very basic, get a glass of water is also on my checklist. So even after 200 times, I still go through my checklist. And then number three, be strict with your time slot. I am quite strict. I'm okay with people arriving a couple of minutes later. 5 minutes is reasonable, and then that's it. Anyone who basically arrives after 5 minutes beyond the start of my time slot, I usually don't even allow them into the meeting anymore, because once we get started with an exercise, it is too disturbing for the people who I've already started that someone else joins in and they don't know exactly what the exercise is about. And then you have to explain everything to the ones who came later. Of course, I understand that some people have a good excuse. Something may have happened, um, which is the reason why they are later. But trains also don't wait for you. The plane also has a last moment, last boarding call, and then after that you're just too late. Okay, so and when every meetup that I organize is repeated anyway, I don't see it as much of a problem. So, okay, well, 3 weeks later, there's another one, same discussion, same exercise. It's just a different date, different time of the day. You can try again and be on time next time. Actually, I don't do it myself, but some people intentionally use time slots with really odd start and end points. Like we start at 2 minutes after 9 and we end at 3 minutes before 10, for example. That makes people even more aware that we're supposed to start on time and we end on time. So be strict with that. That's what I learned as a facilitator. And then at the start, I try to confirm each member's participation. Simply a brief sentence or two with each of the participants. Hey, how are you doing? How's the weather over there in uh, in uh, 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 in Sao Paulo, or what's happening over there in Spain. I more or less know where people are from by now, so that forces them to reply. And at that moment, they might notice that their microphone is not working or that they struggle with some technology. And you better want that at the very start before you have begun your exercise or discussion. You want to clear away those obstacles before everyone begins. So make sure you have a brief interaction with every person so that you force them to check whether the microphone is working and the camera is working and everything. And then fifth tip, get commitment on a team agreement. I have done that quite often in the beginning when everyone was new as part of my workshops. I literally showed them this page with 6 rules for the meetups, and I had them agree, thumbs up. I want to see a thumbs up for every person. Actually, I asked them to read out loud every point on this agreement one by one. So one person said, we start on time and we stop when we're done. And then the next person, we are focused and we ignore distractions. And then everyone had to put their thumbs up. And then we are participative and supportive for all, etc. And of course, the last one, we contribute to fun and happiness. And then we wanted to see 2 thumbs up. People like that. It's a starting ritual, and social science says that it's good to have start and end rituals with your meetups. That means that people they're more there, they pay more attention because you have an opening and you have closure with your meetup. And I find this such a working agreement a really good way to start a discussion, because some of my exercises, they get a bit personal. People share personal stuff, personal motivation, some things about the projects that they're working on. So they need to feel safe talking about these things with complete strangers, basically. And then I like using the lean coffee format for discussions. There are several tools for lean coffees. I use Lean Coffee Table, but I'm sure there are others as well, because that sort of levels the playing field for everyone. It's the starting point with lean coffee is that you first ask everyone silently to add topics to a list, and that means you level the playing field between the introverts and the extroverts. It's not like everyone starts talking immediately. No, the first minute or two, it's silence. You just write your topics with each other that you want to talk about. Then you vote with dot voting about the most popular topics. Then you start at the top, easy enough. And every topic gets a little time box of 5 minutes or 7 minutes. Super easy concept, super easy format. But I definitely recommend using this to facilitate your discussion and make sure that everyone has an equal chance to contribute. And prepare exercises for easy use by everyone, because not all participants in a meetup are equally versed in the many possibilities of Miro or whatever tool that you use. So as I show you in this example, this is an exercise in the middle of the description and an example of my team competencies exercise. I have the grids prepared around it. So the only thing that people need to do is just drag and drop sticky notes from the side, which is pretty basic behavior, but they don't need to do anything else. So you want to prevent people from struggling with some things that they have not done before, like drawing lines or whatever. That should be optional, but the basics should be there, prepared and all for the beginner participants to be able to contribute as well. Number eight, watch people's faces and body language. I pay attention to how people are looking and what they're doing if I have a chance, because sometimes you see someone being confused, for example, and then you can say, "Hey, what's going on? Can I help? Are you trying to say something?" And every now and then, indeed, someone was struggling with something that one of the other participants could help with, for example. So watch people what people are doing when you're a facilitator, and particularly watch their faces, their body language. And then handle the dominant participants with a bit of humor. Yeah, I had some extroverts on my meetups that loved to talk, and no problem with that, of course. But I want to give other people a chance as well. So whenever Monique is the first one to answer every question, when that happened three times, I might say with the fourth question, so, and who has an opinion on this, whose name is not Monique? And then I laugh about it, and Monique also laughs about it because Monique realizes that, yeah, she's been talking quite quite a bit. But you need to handle these situations as a facilitator, because even if Monique is slightly embarrassed or perhaps a little bit offended that she was called out, you have 5 or 10 other participants who would be offended for not having a chance of speaking because Monique is doing all the talking, and they're not too polite to say anything about it. That's your responsibility. So better focus on them and pull Monique back a little bit, but try to do that with humor if you can. And then don't fear the uncomfortable silence. Every now and then it happens that nobody's saying anything. You ask a question, so who has an idea about this or that? And nobody comes forward immediately. That's okay. I just wait. And it can take 10 seconds, can take 20 seconds, and it starts feeling uncomfortable. But I tell you, at some point, someone starts talking, and it should not be you, because the others feel it as well, of course. Oops, this is uncomfortable. And you don't want to be the person who breaks the silence as the facilitator. That's not your job. One of the others should do that. And it's okay if it is for a 10 or 20 seconds a bit uncomfortable. Nobody really minds. It gives them a moment to think, perhaps. Maybe people are just thinking before they are able to come forward with an idea. Then 11, use two screens. I have two screens right now. That's magic if you can put things on different screens. Sometimes I have to watch chat windows. Sometimes I have to watch the participants because it happens that people drop out. And when I have breakout rooms, then people come back, they reconnect, and they're in the main room again. So I have to watch if someone is in the main room and then reassign them to breakout rooms and these things. And it's much easier if you have multiple screens as a facilitator. And as I said just now, I use breakout rooms for better interaction. Anything up to 5, 6, 7 people is fine to do in the main room, but beyond, I split them all up. I make sure that they are in small groups because it's much easier for people to then have at least a contribution in a small group. So 15 people, I make that 3 breakout rooms. 20 people, that's 4 breakout rooms. On average, I'd like to put 5 people in a room, maybe between three and five, not more than five usually. And then I have to prepare the work areas, of course, for multiple groups. As in this case, another example, I have an exercise, descriptions in the middle. This is a value list exercise about core values of companies with 3 groups around them. So 3 different breakout rooms can do this exercise, each in their own area. And it's pretty simple to understand this. All right, the last couple, noise canceling software comes in handy every now and then. My neighbors are working on their house. Basically, they're stripping the entire apartment, and they've been drilling and whatnot, and it's just, it drives me totally nuts. But the noise canceling software filters it all out. I cannot live without it anymore. So I definitely recommend that you find noise canceling software. It's not expensive. I use Crisp.ai. I'm sure there are others out there, but it's a gift from heaven as far as I'm concerned. And then deeply understand how to use each tool. This connects back to the opening anecdote. The facilitator had 100 board members and executives in the call, but he did not know how to mute someone who was having a phone call. That's the basics. So make sure you go through a tool, whether it's Zoom or Miro, and that you at least understand how to move your sticky notes. How to I practiced starting breakout rooms and navigating between the rooms before I did my first Zoom meeting, a Zoom call with workshop participants. Those are the things that you really need to have covered as a facilitator. And last but not least, just keep learning new tips and tricks. I am now doing my first presentation with Miro itself. I've never done that before. I usually use PowerPoint. But yeah, it has its benefits, some drawbacks, of course. But now at least I have two tools to choose from. And from now on, I might sometimes choose Miro over PowerPoint. So I keep learning. I have this list of books that I found on remote work and virtual teams. There's a URL there. The organizers will share the deck with you at the end. So feel free to dig a little bit deeper. And yeah, that's it. I am fortunate enough that I have invites for normal workshops again, 2-day workshops from September. The crisis is nearly behind us. And actually, the topic then is going to be hybrid work. That's super interesting because I believe that will be a mix of online stuff and in-person stuff. Some people will be at the office, some people will be remote. And it's the same for my workshops, I hope, in the future, that some of them will be done in location with clients, but alternatively, people can also do part of them online. That's a new way of working, and actually, that's what my new workshops will be about. So I will do it all, and I look forward to that. So anyways, that was it. I hope you found some of these tips useful, and it is back to Shipra.
Yeah, Jurgen, thank you. That was great. I saw a lot of chatter in the Zoom chat as you were speaking, where people were really resonating with some of your tips. I have maybe one quick question. We're like a little over time, but one quick question before you leave. Is there a difference between meetings and meetups in your mind, or are they the same thing?
Oh, good. A good question. I never really consciously defined them, but if I would define them now, I would say a meeting is something between team members, usually. That's how I interpret it, people who already work together. And a
Yeah.
meetup is something where people who do not work together get together to talk about something. And so I call them meetups as part of my workshops because they are not part of one team, but all the technologies and everything, they're all the same, obviously. So what
Awesome.
applies to meetups, the tips, those also probably apply to meetings and vice versa.
Oh my gosh, that makes sense. Well, thanks for clarifying that. I saw that pop up a couple of times, so I thought I would ask you. And well, look forward to having you lead some teams into this hybrid future. And thanks again. Bye.